The Lakers beat the Heat in 6 games this past Sunday. Not a lot of viewership though. Only I think it was only 2.3 million people tuned in to watch Game 6 of the NBA Finals, which is kind of wild.
For good reason.
Yeah, it is football Sunday, but at the same time as the NBA Finals. I'm very curious to talk about that, which we will just right now on the Magic Hour podcast. Xavier Gomez is back, NBA breakfast, but it's nighttime.
Oh, I ain't eating breakfast right now. I already had dinner. How you guys doing?
But that's kind of like what we brought up in the first NBA breakfast? Like, that's the great thing about breakfast. You can eat it any time of day.
You could. I will say that I had fettuccine alfredo for dinner.
Yeah, you can't really have that for breakfast.
Yeah. I would love breakfast. I would eat it for dinner often, but tonight fettuccine was like, yo, let's smack, and so we smacks.
Yeah, and just like breakfast, or just like breakfast, the NBA, you can have what we found during this bubble. You can have the NBA any time
Yeah.
of day.
You can have your cake and you can eat it too.
Like, you can have it a game starting at 10 in the morning. You can have it a game start.
Let
Yeah.
me tell you, I miss
Right?
the NBA already. I miss like looking forward to like there's a game today, Even like at the end when the final started to happen, it was like every other day, and you're like, what? And then it was 2 days off. You're like, what do you mean 2 days of no basketball? Like it was kind
I
of
know. It kind of
weird.
sucked, right?
Yeah, I want basketball back, and it's funny
I'm
because like the regular season typically pre Rona would like start in like a month or two, right? Or like it would already
Yeah.
started,
No,
right?
it would start in like a week.
Exactly.
It's usually like mid October or something.
So it's yeah, it's gonna be weird. What is the next season? They're
They
like the
haven't announced
real.
it yet. But
It'd be weird.
every podcast and every like article I read says like they're aiming for like February. Like they want to give like the same amount of time off, even though the guys had this like long break for COVID and shit like that. But they don't want it to start quickly, and also they want fans to be there, so they're trying to kind of like wait it out to see when like states will kind
Hmm.
of loosen up and things will start opening up so they can get fans back.
Do you think this is gonna change the season, like when it happens? Like it used to be
I don't know,
between
man.
like a certain amount of month, like early fall to end of winter. Do you think it could become more of a summer sport now because of whenever COVID releases and when they start the games? What's reasonable for the next year after that?
I don't think so, because I think so. Like the professional sports or sports calendar in general is such a well-oiled machine if you really think about it. Like,
Mm,
a big reason why, obviously, I think that the NBA finals had such low ratings is because um there was so much overlap from different sports, and we're not used to that. People are used to watching the NBA finals at the beginning of summer. That's when they like to watch it. That's when they enjoy tuning into to super competitive basketball. Like, they're not really used to it now. I think they're kind of so used to football starting right now and being in football mode that's what they were in. And it's
mm-hmm.
just like, because it's such a well-oiled machine. Baseball goes during the summer. That's your sport during the summer. Basketball during the winter. Football during the fall, so on and so forth. I think they're going to try their best to get back to that. Otherwise, you're just going to have the same issues that you had on Sunday. You're going to have too much overlap, and it could really fuck it up. I think
Mm-hmm.
the one issue with the sports calendar that kind of fucks it up is baseball's too long, man. It interferes with football season too much. Like, if they cut it off, if they cut it like 20 games and made it like a month shorter, and then the playoffs started in September instead of October, I think they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have as much of an issue with like viewership and whatnot. But because it hits like the heart of football, you know, October baseball starts like right when football is really getting competitive, because the
Mm-hmm.
first 4 games in football are usually kind of a wash. Like, people are trying to like figure out their teams are trying to figure each other out, and there's always like bad losses. But then finally the teams kind of figure it out, and the sport just kind of goes, and that's when the competitive teams really start to like take off and stuff.
I agree. I agree. Um, and I feel like a lot of people would say that Game Five, no, Game Six had lower ratings, but it was actually one of the more higher rated games, like viewer wise, than the other five
Oh,
of the
really?
series. The lowest rated game was Game Three. After that was Game Two, and then Game One was the third lowest rated game.
I wonder why. Why do you think? Do you think that people thought like game 3 that LeBron and AD are just gonna take off from there and there was gonna be a sweep or some shit?
I don't know. I will say, I mean, viewership in the playoffs has been declining as the years go on for whatever reason, and I don't really know why. I don't know if
It
it's like
feels like the
dominance of
NBA is
certain
more popular
leagues.
than ever, though.
Exactly, and especially this year, it's drastically fallen off because last year they had averaged almost 9 million viewers. This year was like a solid 4.
Dude, you know what? I know what it is.
Mm.
Streaming. More people, millennials especially, we're all streaming the games. We're not watching it on TV,
And
and streaming doesn't count for the ratings.
and I wonder what it goes into account of the viewers as a bars. Like if every bar in America is playing the game, regardless if someone's in the
Yeah,
in the bar or not. But that's viewers technically, right?
yeah. I
And how
wonder if
many
it's
bars
by
are
TV
closed
or if
and
it's
aren't
by
playing those
like,
games?
yeah,
That's
like I wonder how that
millions.
subscription works. Because remember, and also
Huh.
bars and businesses have different like they have different cable subscriptions than us.
Yes, and they won't. They don't. There's no reason to turn on the game if nobody's there. Hmm.
Yeah. Damn, I didn't even think about that.
Viewership has fallen off a
That's a good call.
ton, which is crazy because that's all I was doing. I was unemployed and like just sitting around. Like
Yeah, I mean,
all
me
I
and
was
you were
doing was
playing the NBA bubble drinking game.
yeah. It was like I had alarm set. Oh, 6 o'clock. Like I was watching games because that was the
Yeah,
thing to do. So it's kind of crazy how nobody else was doing that necessarily.
yeah.
And it also makes you think well, maybe the numbers have been inflated. Like that's actually like average, like what people were actually watching, and like maybe there are just bars open with people who aren't really watching the game, but if the game is on, you know, places that just have it on TV. I don't know. Maybe the Lakers winning has something to do with it. People kind of expected that to happen, and then it did.
I don't know. So I was talking to my buddy Joey, who is a Laker fan, about this the other day.
Shout out
Um,
Joey.
what's up?
Shout out Joey.
Yeah. And he was kind of talking about the storylines of the NBA bubble, in terms of like the general storylines. And every storyline, he gave me 3 of them, and every single storyline he brought up was from the perspective of a Laker fan. I was
Okay.
like for example, he said one of his storylines he thought was the Miami Heat ruined the potential Celtics Laker matchup in the finals, and getting the classic like rivalry matchup. And I was like, and he was like, I like a bunch of people were upset about that, and I'm like, that's weird because I felt the complete opposite. Loved watching the Heat play basketball,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
was rooting for them to make it to the finals. I wanted to watch them and see how they played the Lakers. So like that I feel like when you say that those are the storylines of the bubble, you're not speaking on my behalf as an NBA fan.
Agreed.
You're speaking on the behalf of Laker fans. Like all those things. And then like another one was like the Nuggets ruined the battle for LA. I know that was a big storyline nationally, but I personally didn't give 2 shits about the battle for LA. I actually kind of like got more joy out of the Lakers losing
It
to
was
the
written,
Nuggets in the
and it
semis.
was up to the Clippers did that to themselves. I don't know how anyone could blame the Nuggets. The Clippers did it to themselves. Like that's
Yeah,
the only
I'm just saying,
storyline.
like, anyway, he was saying all these storylines, and I was like, that kind of sounds like the view of a Laker fan. That doesn't sound like the view of an
Mhm.
NBA fan. So that being said, um, maybe we were wrong because the ratings don't reflect that. I
I
mean,
mean,
Game
the
3 was
Lakers were the
also a great
favorites.
game. Do you remember that? I mean, that was the
Game three was
Jimmy
a great
Butler
game,
insane game. Yeah,
and that actually was the lowest rated game in finals history,
yeah, that's the crazy thing about it.
which is insane.
But
And I don't.
dude,
I
here's a fun
mean,
fact I just thought of. I don't. Oh, go ahead. Go. I'll tell you after. Go ahead.
well, okay. So I was thinking, all right. We all kind of assumed the Lakers were going to win, right? I think early on the pod I said it was between Giannis, Kawhi, and LeBron, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
And earlier in the playoffs, like the earlier rounds,
That's right.
way more viewership.
Your game of
Yeah, 21.
21.
Yeah, viewership was way up, and you could say because there was more teams, so more fan bases, more viewership because of all of that.
Yeah.
But I think once Giannis got eliminated second round, and then once Kawhi got eliminated second round, it was kind of known that like, oh, it's LeBron's gonna get it. You know what I mean? And we kind of all danced with this cool like idea that like maybe Denver will do something crazy, but like it was kind of known at that point, like this is what's gonna happen. So I think they go up 2 games, whatever. And then it kind of trickled down. I think it was more apparent in Game 5. We're like, oh, they're blowing them out, whatever. Yeah, I like to see Miami play just as much as you do, but it wasn't fun to see them get beat by 30 points.
No,
You know?
no,
So
yeah, I
I'm gonna turn
agree.
on the Seahawks game and enjoy myself and watch Russell Wilson do his thing.
Damn, that was a pretty crazy
Yeah,
ending to
he's the
that
man,
game
bro.
too.
I mean, I'm a Niner fan, and it's hard to hate.
Um, so one thing I just thought about that also could be a factor is unemployment and from COVID. Like, think about it for example, our generation. One thing that has been trending statistically for as a result of COVID is a lot of people, millennials, have moved back in with their parents
Mm-hmm.
because they can't pay rent because they don't have a job anymore.
Sharing the
So
same
that
TV.
takes away a TV viewership right there. Maybe people can't afford cable anymore. That takes away some TV viewership right there. Maybe they're streaming it, but again, streaming doesn't count towards the rating. So there's just so many factors um, because of this COVID hit that could be resulting in that. But at the same time, NFL viewership is as high as it's ever been.
Yes, and all right, there's that idea that the social justice movement, the like keeping it very political,
Mm-hmm.
very woke, you know, that had a big influence in the NBA, whether or not people are gonna watch it. But then you have to think about, all right, what are the demographics of the NBA compared to the NFL? You know what I mean? Who's watching the NBA and is like willing not to tolerate to necessarily, but like would enjoy that? Is that the majority of Americans? And compared to like the NFL, which is condemned more or less kneeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We've seen that, like, and that's what people are watching.
I mean,
They'd rather watch that.
we
So
saw opening night of the NFL where Kansas City booed the Texans and the Chiefs for kneeling. So I
yeah,
mean, I
their
think
own team.
that tells you how it is right there. Like people in Kansas City probably ain't watching the NBA because they're probably
Yeah,
fed up with
their team who just won the Super Bowl.
yeah,
They booed them along with the Texans. It's insane. But like,
yeah.
you know, that's how political things have gone. I think the NBA has gone the extra mile as they should. And they're, I mean, are they being reprimanded for it with viewership? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if the numbers necessarily reflect exactly that differential compared to all the other factors like we just brought up. I mean, but of course, but now you're saying NFL has got it, you know. But at the same time, things are more opening up than they have. I don't
I
know.
think that that is a part of it. I think that if you look around um the audience of the NFL, you're going to find a good percentage of them, you know, I don't want to be stereotypical, but are from the South. You know, the South loves football,
Hmm.
and they might have different views towards social justice than people like us in California.
And social
So
distancing as well.
so they might be tired of watching the NBA and the constant like narrative pushing for social reform, where football they push it down your throat definitely, but not as intensely as basketball has.
Yeah, basketball words are on your jerseys. Which
But can I bring up one example in Major League Baseball? So the Oakland A's were the number one increase um, in TV viewership this season of all Major League Baseball for men from 18 to 35, which is the target demographic they've been going after for the past few years because they're starting to lose that
that's
demographic.
baseball, yeah.
The A's have been probably the most outspoken team in baseball on social justice and reform. In fact, they were the only team that left the Black Lives Matter logo on the pitching mound all season. A lot of other teams sold out and they got rid of that and they put it in a sponsorship. Tony Kemp is
Mm.
probably the most, one of the most, if not the most outspoken baseball player in the season this season on social reform, but yet their viewership shot up. Again, they play in the Bay Area, California, probably the most
Mm.
liberal place in the entire country, so it's a little bit different. But that is another example of I,
Your
I
strengths, yeah.
every it feels like every time we think we found the reason why viewership has gone down for the NBA, we have an example of the counterpoint.
Exactly. It's and I'm like I'm all for it. Like everything that the NBA does. I wish they could do more. I'm actually shocked that viewership has gone down, especially since I mean
It feels like the league is more
Basketball
popular than
hasn't.
it's ever been.
Yeah. And basketball hasn't seemed more like active and more like exciting ever before than it is. You know what I mean? Like, and like, why wouldn't people who love basketball enjoy this type of basketball? You know, it's just it perplexes me. Like,
Yeah.
who's not watching basketball right now? Are people really not? People are really missing out on these games. If I'm boycotting basketball, are they really doing it and missing out on
Well,
some spectacular games? Like, is that really happening? Because I can't believe it.
our good friend Julio in our group chat texts us all the time, and how he's like, I'm not watching. Tell me when it's a close game with 2 minutes left," and we
I
tell him
can't. Yeah,
so he can tune in. I don't get it either, man. These games are so fucking exciting.
I've never met somebody who's so informed and opinionated about sports who just never watches sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, Julio watches sports. He just doesn't watch the NBA.
Oh, LeBron's got a triple double. Oh, you watching the game? No, I'm watching Harry Potter. And you're like, what? How did you know he had a triple double? Oh, I'm on the stats. I'm on ESPN right now. Like, just watch the game. Like, you don't have to watch the Sorcerer's Stone again. You know, like.
So, we'll move on to another subject. But that was great. I really liked exploring that because I feel like there was a lot of factors that I never really thought of. Did you think the bubble was did you think the bubble was a success?
Did they play the whole season, including the playoffs, without suspensions? I mean, like suspending games, postponing games, and any like major hiccups?
Not only that, they went through the entire
whatever.
bubble without a single positive COVID case from not only the
Yeah.
players, the staff, the media, and the event staff. That's
I think
pretty fucking unbelievable.
only
Football,
hockey
it feels like every week football there's a game postponed because there's like 6 players who are
lately. Yeah.
tested positive.
Yeah, you know, it's an absolute success. Hockey also didn't have any problems.
Yeah, they did really
You
well
know,
too.
They kind of went under the radar. I feel bad for hockey seasons and probably their whole revenue and shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched a lot of the Stanley Cup.
Mhm.
I tried to get you and like a lot of other people in on it. It was exciting.
No, every time you gave me an update that it was a close game, I tuned in and watched.
Dude, Tampa Bay, wow. And it was just, they were always pushing like double overtime. If you're not on to playoff hockey, you're missing out. All right, don't watch the regular season because I don't. But playoff hockey, next level.
Oh yeah. You know what's crazy about the Stanley Cup playoffs? Their ratings, they averaged under 1 million viewers.
What?
Yeah, that's wild, right?
I don't believe it because people are missing out. What are people doing? If you're not home, I don't know. I guess
you look. So for the listeners who aren't watching this on the YouTube channel, Xavier looks physically upset right now. He's like moving around a lot. He's just
let's paint a picture. Let's paint a picture. All right. So you're home. All right. You're with your significant other. She's like, hey,
what if you're single?
I'm painting a picture here.
Got it.
That's a different picture.
Okay.
All right. And your boy's like, yo, the hockey game's on. And you're like, oh, you know, but it's none of your favorite teams, but it sounds like a fun game. But your girl's like, oh, let's kick it and watch another episode of House Hunters. And she just made some cookies, and you're like, you know, like I'm gonna kick it. You're not gonna change that channel. And I get it. If you just got off of work and you're tired and she's busy with some and you need a beer and you turn on the TV and the game happens to be on, you're gonna sit there, you're gonna watch the whole thing. You know, but if you made plans to snuggle, you ain't fucking watching no games.
No,
I think that's maybe why views went down because everybody's home doing home things.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, and I mean, I don't want to. I mean,
and then we're single and we're home. We're single and we're home and we're watching.
Yeah.
Games, but like, how many single guys are there really?
I mean, I think there's quite a few.
And we all like basketball.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Maybe we don't all like basketball. Yeah,
3 million of us apparently.
In general, I think the bubble was a huge success. I had so much fun, especially those early games when there was like 4 or 5 games. Well, no, it was like 4 games a day. When me and you would just hang out on Zoom for like 8 hours a day and just watch basketball.
Watch them. Oh, this game's on.
Yeah, I fucking loved that. I definitely missed that.
Fun.
Yeah, it was like March Madness since we didn't get any of it. All right, so let's talk about the Lakers' legacy and the Lakers and LeBron's legacy. So, I mean, we all didn't, as Warrior fans, not we all, but me and you, Jackson, you know, so on and so forth. We didn't want this to happen. We were really hoping it wouldn't, and I think we all kind of thought of excuses why the Lakers wouldn't win. But
we're dreamers.
the signs were there from the beginning of the season. They were hands down the best team all season long in the entire NBA, not just the Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't be too shocked that not only did they win, but they won pretty convincingly in 6 games. 2 of them were blowouts. Yeah.
The only 2 games they dropped were very close.
Yeah. So
it's just like I feel like we didn't talk about how the Lakers are going to win early on because it was just like such a given, and it's more fun to dream about all the crazy possibilities of what could happen and what couldn't happen, and a lot of that panned out. And I mean, as a Laker fan, it was kind of a nice ride. I'm not a Laker fan, but they had a good, nice ride to the finals. Wasn't that tumultuous as other series, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. I think LeBron MVP. Finals MVP was earned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he balled out first, actually all 6 games. I think he dropped 40 on the Game 5 loss. I mean, he did what he had to do. You get that 2-0 lead, and when you get 2-0 in the finals, it's kind of wrap. You know,
but it's not like Anthony Davis was no slouch either. Like a lot of people argued maybe he deserved the MVP.
No, but you could see, but like he easily could have been like, all right, we were 2-0, we're dominant over Miami.
Yeah.
You know, I could take a back seat, drop 12 tomorrow night, and then Davis is gonna drop some. We're gonna win by 2 or some shit like that. He could easily coast and like win that finals like that. Mm-hmm. He still went in, and crushed it. You know, almost he averaged a double every night. I think he averaged like 31.
Yeah, something like that.
For the finals, something like that. He had like 25 to 28, and then like some late 30s and a 40 bomb. You know, he really went in and secured it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they were dominant.
Yeah,
dominant.
So they did exactly what they did all fucking season long. They played a great defense and they got buckets when they needed to. Like that was especially without Dragic. So that was the big. You could tell like you didn't really know what was going to happen all season. You kind of felt like, all right, Dragic is an important part of this team, but not that important. Like he's definitely replaceable. Especially with the Tyler Hero blowing up. You're like, okay, cool. Dragic is going to be gone next year. Tyler Hero will fill in, like kind of play point guard, like move from the 2 to the 1, and then you know you could put like Kendrick, or you put Kendrick Nunn at the point guard. It'll work out. Like they can figure it out. But you just saw in this series how much Dragic just opens up that offense and just creates opportunities. Whether it's a
problem
passing,
that everybody has to think about.
His ability to see the floor, but also his clutch 3-point shooting when you need it. Now they could not. They got one really good game out of Duncan Robinson. I think it was game 5, where he scored like 25 points or something like that. And he had a lot of clutch shots, but Dragic has made his career off of doing that every single day, and you can rely on that. Tyler Hero had some off games, and look, Tyler Hero's a good shooter, but what he does best is he's a threat from out there, and then you kind of wait on him, and then you know, as a defender you pull the trigger and you move up, and he kind of catches that and he dribbles around you and makes his drive to the hoop and finds his lane. So like I don't know. I mean, it just everything about it, just the way that Dragic just sees the floor. He opens up opportunities for Bam. Bam wasn't that great. Yeah, he was hurt, but I genuinely feel like a big part of that was not having the opportunities from a solid point guard who knows the way he plays. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like they missed him a lot, and I think that he gave him, you know, Spoelstra and Pat Riley a case to like, hey, bring me back next year because this team needs me.
Yeah, and that's what happened. I mean, the Heat were a great team. I think the Lakers made a solid game plan for the series and executed extremely well. They were like, all right, the Heat can't beat us straight up, you know, their best 2 versus our best 2. They can't. You know, Jimmy Butler and Bam just don't add up to LeBron and AD. So the Heat were going to have to rely on their shooters, you know. And the Lakers were going to have to rely on their bench, which was a concern the entire playoffs. They're like, all right, you know, I'm willing to make that. And they did, you know. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, they weren't hitting the threes until like game 3, game 5, where they stole a couple hits, you know. And then the Lakers were like, we're totally okay to live and die by that. If you want to rain on some threes, we'll let that happen. If we lose, we lose. But we're gonna play you straight up how we can. And they showed that they were dominant.
And that's a great.
Butler was amazing, but
that's a great point about the Lakers bench and their role players. Like some of them, you know, there's a lot of hit and miss throughout the playoffs, and LeBron and AD were able to make up the slack, but they fucking showed up in this finals. Caruso, Rondo, oh my god, playoff Rondo, making a case for the Hall of Fame right now. Dwight Howard had a good series.
Great series.
KCP had some huge shots.
And it almost seemed like
and I
they
hate
were
KCP.
all.
I hate the fact that I'm complimenting him right now.
It
But he
almost
had
seemed
some
like they
huge
were all
shots.
like kind of mid throughout the playoffs, and they were all saving it for this. They're like, we can't wait for this moment to shine. And like, why wouldn't you? You're like, you have LeBron and AD. Like, this is an almost certain finals. Like, let me like make my mark.
Yeah.
And I get that. And it almost there was a pattern. Like the Lakers would play competitive first quarter, and then like early like second quarter they pull LeBron and AD, maybe pull them back late, and let the bench deal with what happens.
LeBron and AD would only sit for like a minute. They would come back in like that. It felt like.
Sometimes, but it was up to like the Heat in that time to like get a huge lead at the half, because after halftime, it took off. Lakers took off. If the Heat weren't already up, leading, going into the half, they didn't have a chance because they were getting blown out the third or fourth quarter almost every single game, except for maybe game 5. I think they won the fourth quarter of that game. That's about it. Because
that was the insane Jimmy Butler game, though.
Oh, he was insane.
It was like 45 points or something like that.
Insane.
Yeah.
But they were going back and forth. Still a very close game. LeBron dropped 40. And he didn't look nearly as tired as Jimmy Butler did. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and look, I don't want this to be like the Heat lost the series. No, the Lakers won that series. Like they were the better team, but I do want to say that it would have been a lot more competitive with a healthy Dragic and a healthy Bam. Like I think they extend it to potentially 7 games, but I think either way, the writing was on the wall. The Lakers are going to win this series no matter what. They were just too good, and their role players played really well.
I knew game 2. After game 2, I knew. I didn't really watch much of game 5 until like I heard that they were winning it late in the 4th, and I watched the end of that.
I was watching on an airplane.
I thought they were gonna. I thought they were just gonna do it. I was like, game 5 is a wrap, whatever, because they were so dominant in game 4, the Lakers. But yeah, nobody watched game 6. Totally understandable. Of course they won. I couldn't see the Heat pushing at game 7. They just didn't have the legs.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler looked exhausted.
Yeah, they played a great series, honestly.
And hey, the Heat look really good for the future. I mean, they definitely have a star in Tyler Hero now. They got Jimmy Butler, aka Jimmy Buckets. They got Bam Adebayo, and who knows what they'll do in free agency.
You think the Celtics could have been more of a problem?
No.
In hindsight?
No.
I mean, they had more scores. They had more shooters.
Who guards
defensively?
AD? Who guards AD?
Yeah, but who guards everybody else? On the other side, when the Lakers have to play defense, who are they guarding? Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum.
Well, I mean, you got Danny Green for Jaylen Brown. You got
get out of here! Don't even talk to me about
Danny Green's a great defender. Danny Green for Jaylen Brown. You got what would probably be, I would assume Tatum would guard, or LeBron would guard Tatum, and LeBron's a good defender. At point guard, I mean, Rondo's not a slouch, but I mean, I guess you put him on Kemba. Yes. So Kemba is going to get his 30. Yeah, that's great, but you're going to slow down Tatum a lot. Tatum has never played someone who is as physical, and LeBron would bully Tatum, and then Brown would have his classic hit or miss games. He's either lights out one game or he's not the next game. And I think Danny Green would slow him down. And then AD would just fucking dominate. I mean, who you're going to put Daniel Tice on AD? Like, come on, bro. Like AD would get he would average like 35 a game.
I don't think it's about, I don't think that series would be more about stopping the other team as it is as much as like making sure you score more than them. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
but the Lakers Lakers proved in this finals that it is about stopping their team. Defense won them this fucking finals.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is, because remember early on in the bubble, the Lakers could barely score 100 points or some shit like that.
Okay, but hold on.
But they made it. I'm not done with my point.
Okay, all right.
So they're like, all right, we got to go defensively, and I'm saying the Celtics, they had so many scores that maybe it would have it put more pressure on them defensively to know like where to double, where to rotate, because anybody was a threat at that time. Whereas like the Heat, I feel like some people were less hot. Like they were less willing to throw a double or roll on a screen with Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. You know what I mean? Not as much as like Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown or fucking Kemba Walker,
Yeah, I mean the thing is, ideally you trap LeBron when he gets close to the glass. So like Jaylen Brown probably guards LeBron because Jaylen Brown's their best wing defender. So you kind of have Tatum's spot a little bit. But at the same time, LeBron, I feel like, is just so dominant physically that he still takes over those guys near the glass. And then on top of that, if let's say he misses, then he kind of just dips it off to AD and he kind of finishes the hoop. And they don't have anybody big enough to guard AD. They just don't have anybody who can physically compete with him. So I don't think it's more competitive.
Lakers defense
really
definitely stepped up and showed what they really could do in the finals.
On that point, can I read off the total score? Like, this is how good the Lakers defense was. So in game 1, the Heat only scored 98 points. Game 2, they scored 114, so a little bit better. And then game 3, 115. After that, game 4, 96. Game 5, 111. Game 6, 93. Like, I mean,
it down.
Yeah.
It's about defense. And I think after a while, the Heat didn't have enough scores. When you had no Bam and no Dragic first 2 games, how do you score any points? You know what I'm saying? 98, 114. It's not terrible, but it was that. I remember that game was such a blowout.
Yeah.
By the third quarter, it didn't matter what the final score is. Really, that's not indicative of how the game went.
Hero, I think, comes up bigger in those spots in the future, but he's 20 years old. So,
yeah, you can't expect.
I get why
nobody expected him to give us 22 every night. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
which is again why a guy like Dragic is so important, a veteran who's been there.
Yeah, losing Dragic was a massive blow. But I see these memes just about all these asterisks with LeBron. Dragic hurt. He earned it fair and square. I think the bubble is just as difficult to win a ring. It's just as difficult of a ring to win than other years have been. It's an iconic ring, legendary ring.
I think you could argue it's a little bit tougher because you're not feeding off the crowd. I wouldn't argue that, but I think you could argue that you're not feeding off the crowd. You're playing a lot closer together games, so it's every other day. You don't get like 2 days off in between some of the games because of travel. There's definitely a lot of factors that I think made it, just as competitive. And also, I joked a lot about it on this podcast, how if the Lakers, they're the one team that if they win, I'm not going to recognize their championship. That was obviously a joke. I am sticking to my hot take at the beginning of the season that it's a massive disservice and disrespect to these athletes who sacrifice their well-being, their private lives, they're spending quality time with their family and their health in order to entertain us. So to say that this championship's an asterisk is just a slap in their face, and I don't believe that. So this is a true Lakers championship, in my opinion. As much as I hate the Lakers, I'm willing to say that.
They were dominant. They were clearly the best team.
Yeah. They showed that this was inevitable either way. No COVID. I mean, they were just that good. They were going to win it.
Do you think they're going to win again in the next 3 years? I say yes. I think they in the next 3 years. I think they win one more.
Let's save that. Hold on. Let's save that because I want to talk about LeBron's legacy, and then we'll talk about next season. So
okay.
So what does this do to LeBron's legacy? Where does he stand for you, greatest of all time? Is this championship more? Where does it stand in his championships too? Like, is this like number 2, number 1? I mean, this was a tough one to get. I think. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
All right. When it comes to LeBron, of course he's the GOAT, but when I say it's like, all right, where do you rank the GOATs? Because like there's Michael Jordan, and then a lot of people make this argument of like career versus skill, like who had the better career versus who was the better skill player. And some people say like, Jordan had the better career, 3 straight and then 3 more. He played baseball in between and like dominated, but he lost a lot in the playoffs to other teams. And then you have LeBron, he's won now 4 rings and lost 6. He's gone to 10, 9 straight. Is his career better going to 9 straight finals? Being such a dominant force, being somebody who like kind of commands the league. Like if you want to win the finals, you have to go through him.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, all right, well then let's battle of skill. Who was more skilled? And Jordan was extremely skilled, gifted, deft. Oh my God, amazing athlete. But he was playing guys a little. It was a different generation, and maybe things were a little slower. LeBron is skilled. He's, what we praise Giannis for is what LeBron has been his entire career since he was in high school till currently now. He's been never missed a beat. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you compare those two? I think you can't, because they both had amazing, incomparable careers, as well as skill that's beyond measure. So this 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 championship definitely like puts him a step further in like cementing his legacy. I think he's gonna win one more for sure. If he stays with Los Angeles with AD, they just have such a good system. They're just gonna get somebody else. Like there's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, he's the best to ever do it. He can do 5 more years easily, in my opinion. Easily 5 more years. He might get his son to play with them. It's like
That would actually be pretty cool.
It's hard to root against him. I mean, I root against him a lot when he was playing the Warriors in the playoffs. As I should. It's hard to root against a guy who consistently just crushes everybody. It doesn't, this was an amazing story championship, like if anybody else won it, it would have been a crazy, amazing story, but how fitting is it that LeBron, of course, won it, again, without the Warriors to stop him this time, that Tim Duncan.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in my since the 2016 championship with the Cavs. He's been in my top 5. I had him at 5, and then I had Bill Russell, Magic, Bird, and Jordan. That was kind of my list. I think for me, he kind of moves to 4 now, but I'm not quite ready to move him to 2. I'm just not there. I need to see more. Maybe when it's all said and done, it'll be an easy decision. But
who in their 17th year drops 40 points on a game 5 and also wins Finals MVP to win their 4th title on their 3rd team? Whoever does that.
Look,
like,
he's never, in my opinion, he's never going to be better than Jordan. I just think Jordan was just, his legacy is just too. It's just too cemented, but
different kinds of legacies. You know what I mean?
I know, but look. This is the way that I see it. I see it as you all have to like kind of cluster it into one and find a way to compare and contrast in order to get your list. That's just in a weird way I feel.
In a weird way, I see it as like Jordan is like Super Mario, who like could always conquer anything, whatever. But like LeBron was like the Bowser. Like if you wanted to win it all, you had to go through him, and sometimes he was gonna beat you, because he was the final goal for 9 years straight. If you wanted a fucking title, you had to go through LeBron. That's a fact, I
mean, sometimes I feel like the Warriors were there
and they had to go through him. Yeah, they whooped his ass a couple times, but he was there. He was going to see him. It was almost a given. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, you could also argue that with Jordan, but
Jordan,
I hear what
Jordan
you're
had
saying.
That.
He did have that, but I hear what you're saying. I do. I hear what you're saying. What do you think this ranks like amongst LeBron's championships? I think this is 2. I think the Miami ones were easy because that team was so good, but I think this one. I mean, the Cleveland one, just everything he had to overcome for that one was tough. They're the 4 seed.
Miamians were not that easy. I think losing that first one in Miami made it seem not that easy.
But I think that the Cleveland one was definitely the hardest for him and the most memorable because he had to go through what was the force, what was the of the Warriors,
the greatest team of all time.
It's not the greatest team of all time because they didn't win a championship. So
7-3-9. I mean,
it's not the greatest team of all time. Anyway. In my opinion,
because they got to be like LeBron,
look, they put together that Cavs team in order to be this force. Kevin Love wasn't as good as they thought he was. J.R. Smith wasn't as good as they thought he was. Tristan Thompson had a great series, but he wasn't as good. I mean, just there was all these factors that just didn't work out, and that team found a way to win, which was fucking great. This one I think is a close second just because of COVID and everything, like the layoff and all that shit. Like all the stuff adds up this season to where it's like, how could you not consider it in the top half?
One of my favorite playoffs, most memorable to me, I think it will be for a while. LeBron, man, he's crazy. I think he's gonna stay with the Lakers for a while. I think the Western Conference Finals for the next 4 years is going to be insane. now that he's in the West, I think it's gonna be less of like you got to get through me to win the finals. It's gonna be more like you got to get through me to go to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because as the how the East is going, if if the Lakers make it out of the West, they're gonna win another title.
Hold on, KD comes back next season, and that Brooklyn Nets team is looming.
Ooh, you're right, but we haven't seen him yet. You know, it's fun
Yeah,
to make all these like assumptions, and
and who knows
without
where Giannis
Kyrie and
goes? And who knows
KD,
where Giannis goes?
this is true. Without uh, Kyrie and KD, the Nets look nice. They look like kind of a scrub of a team, but that's good enough for the seventh seed in the East. So what's with those two guys, it could be nice. But in my opinion, the West is going to dominate for a while.
I mean, it has been for the past 10 years. You could argue,
Well, except for the Toronto one. But I mean,
in terms of a conference as a whole, though.
true.
Yeah.
And you could even say, I mean, yeah, the Toronto one.
Maybe you could argue like the
So many injuries.
2010 to 2014, the East was pretty good actually. You had to go through, Derrick Rose, the Boston Big Four, more competitive teams definitely, but in the East then. But yeah, I mean, I would
I
say
mean, the
since
West was better
2015, the West has been pretty dominant.
I mean, the Lakers were huge then, and so was Dallas. I don't know.
OKC, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
All
it's
right, so let's talk about the makeup of the rest of the team, rest of the league going into next season. Definitely some changes that are going to be happening to the league. Our boy Steph Curry and the Clay and the boys are going to be back. The Splash Brothers will be healthy. Like we just alluded to and said, KD is going to be back with the Nets with Kyrie.
he's ready to go
Uh,
now,
and
as
a,
of now, right? He's
yeah,
ready to
and
go.
a pretty good Nets team with Karis LeVert and Joe Harris. Actually, Joe Harris is a free agent, so we'll see where he goes. Jared Allen, like pretty solid team. The Thunder are probably going to drop off. Sounds like they're rebuilding. Billy Donovan just left because of that. Definitely gonna be some movement next season. Pelicans are gonna be much better.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I would assume the Grizzlies are gonna be much better. The Blazers are gonna be much better. Again, all these teams are in the
Where the
West.
Kings at, yo?
Maybe the Kings.
Hopefully. It's like every year I feel like I'm rooting for the Kings to make a drastic change, and then they just fizzle out.
I think the biggest threats to LeBron repeating would be obviously the Clippers, the Nets. I think the Heat have some moves to make this offseason. Maybe they don't quite make them because maybe they're waiting for Giannis, but I think there are some moves to be made.
Warriors.
The Warriors, huge threat coming that no one's gonna really think about.
Hey, put some respect on the Nuggets.
And you didn't even let me finish. Yeah,
my bad.
And Utah. I
don't know about that.
I mean, Utah took the Nuggets to 7
I'm
games.
not big on the Gobert Donovan Mitchell relationship.
We already know about you and your hatred towards Gobert.
Oh yeah. Can't stand the man.
Do you think it's they're gonna be as dominant next year or no? The Lakers.
Of course, definitely. The Lakers. Yes.
See, I don't think so.
No, that bench.
I think the Warriors will have something to do with it.
All right, you got that rickety starting five, but then you have that solid bench that has the confidence of winning a championship, was dominant in the finals, putting up all kinds of points. Like they're a problem, now, and that's exactly what LeBron and AD need, a confident bench to back them up when they're not in the game, and then they need their role players which they have. I think Markieff Morris. He played a fantastic role, just doing what he had to do. Same with Rondo, even JaVale. Sometimes just they got exactly what they needed out of these people, so that they could do their jobs. And they crushed it. It's hard to beat.
We don't know what the Rockets are going to do this offseason. We don't know what the Sixers are going to do. I just think that there's obviously they're in the East, but still. The Warriors, again, I keep saying them, but they're, I think people, obviously, maybe my listeners aren't because they're Warrior fans, but a lot of people are sleeping on them. And when that team's healthy, they're fucking good.
I think there are a lot of contending teams that are incomplete. Like are forced with XY, but they don't have the Z necessarily. I think that
Yeah.
Rockets are one of them.
hmm
OKC is one of them. Even the Pacers, I think, is one of them. I know they had their injuries and couldn't really show what they had this playoffs, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. But with Indiana, um, the Heat are not for sure. But Denver is definitely a team that needs one more piece.
I
I
mean,
think you've been
we were
saying that a
texting about
lot.
it today. Yeah, like they're one move away from
You
like
know,
just being really fucking
Michael Porter
good.
Jr. could be that. But like, I mean, it wouldn't be too
But do
bold
you?
if their front office was like, you know what, fuck it, let's get somebody who's for real could be our number 3 and
Yeah,
could take us somewhere, and we'll just deal somebody out. We'll take that risk, and that's not wrong.
if you're their
If it means
GM,
the championship.
do you want to sit around and keep waiting on not keep waiting, but waiting on Michael Porter Jr. to see what he does this year, or do you want to just pull the trigger and be like, all right, cool, Bradley Beal, let's fucking go and let's make this a real team?
I mean, yeah, if that option is there for sure. If it's not, you don't.
I mean,
It's
there's
not.
other options out there. That was
Yeah,
just one off the
exactly.
top of my
Yeah,
head I threw in.
exactly. What I'm trying to say is that, like, yeah, go for that. Look for that. And if it doesn't work out, your fallback plan, your plan B is still Michael Porter Jr., who
Yeah,
could still very well pan out.
yeah.
He's just a little young. He's tall. He's athletic. He can score. He can play defense.
He can't play defense. That's kind of the issue, though.
All right, he will be able to play defense. Defense can be taught. Offense not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential with him, and maybe there's an option to make them get over that hump, without having to trade, and maybe they can sign someone in free agency, like we're kind of was texting about earlier. Like Gallinari is a free agent. A Gallo on that team would be so fucking good.
But all right, no, I mean I don't know. I think they need a more.
Think about Gallo coming off the bench.
They need a more solid number 3 to really make them want to risk it. They just went to the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers.
But the Lakers just proved
like,
that you only need 2 real like stars, and you just get a bunch of really good role players around them, and you can win a championship. You have your 2 stars. Murray, hold on. Murray and Jokic just proved that they're probably 2 of the top 15 players in the league. You have
but
your
the
2 stars,
number 1 and 2 are LeBron and AD. What are you talking about?
So then
that's the only instance.
But then you can stock up role players around them, guys who can spread the floor, who can kind of do a little bit of everything. Gallo is that guy. Jeremy Grant had a lot of potential. This is like his coming out party. He's definitely going to improve next year. Guys like that always do. Michael Porter Jr., like you just said, Gary Harris doesn't have to score as much anymore if Michael Porter Jr. really comes back, and if they get some more scoring off the bench. Will Barton didn't play in the bubble, so we didn't even see what his contributions could have been on that team. I mean, the list goes on and on and on in that team. And Paul Millsap with the veteran leadership, that team could be there with just some free agent role players adding.
Yeah, I see that. You're right. I mean, the 2-man setup works. We've seen it with Shaq and Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron and AD are doing it. But if another team is going to do that, their 1-2 has to beat that 1-2. LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
If you got a 1-2-3, you got 3 dudes who are a problem. That only increases your odds. That makes it more of a problem for somebody else. That makes a rotation here or there, that much more deadly or effective or efficient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the Warriors definitely redefined the game when they had a big 3. I mean, and how they played their big 3, because I guess Miami had their big 3, but by shooting like that and like moving the ball so much, I think that's what's gonna beat this Lakers team, because they're so heavy. They rely so much on 2 players scoring a lot and their bench carrying them the rest of the way.
Let me throw a trade at you that I just thought of, and let me see what you think. Gary Harris. Gary Harris, and Will Barton for Andrew Wiggins and the number 2 overall pick.
No.
Why not?
No way. All right. You want to tell me, guys?
No way for who?
Play for the Warriors. Why would they go for that trade?
You get a great defensive 2 guard who can play next to Steph. You bump Clay to the 3. And then you get Will Barton coming off the bench.
No. You got you got cheaper guys who you developed in the D League who could probably do almost as good as that, and aren't a liability. And like, it's okay if they don't score, but if you go for Gary Harris and Will Barton and they don't score, it's gonna be like, oh, I fucked up on this trade.
All right, Gary Harris and Jeremy
these
Grant.
guys and they don't score, but they play good defense. It's like, all right, that was a reasonable investment.
Gary Harris and Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant is good. I like him.
And then,
but
if
again,
you're the Nuggets, you only make this deal if you can like sign like Gallinari or another power forward who can get you.
I'm gonna say no, mainly for the reason of the number 2 pick is what the Warriors have been plotting on for the last 6-7 months. Maybe,
but I don't think that they're gonna pick in that pick. I think they're gonna trade it, man.
Regardless, like, they still have a very desirable pick, and that has something. That means something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have a great team. As of now, they still have an extremely strong contending team.
Yeah.
And they have a number 2 pick. What do you go for? What do you go from there? And I don't think that's trading it for Gary Harris and somebody. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely not it.
All right. Fair enough.
No, I think they're gonna draft. They're gonna draft. Why not?
That's what I said, but everybody I talked to and everybody I read says that they're gonna trade it. But I like James Wiseman on the Warriors. Yeah. That guy plays like
you have a need. You have a pick. Fill that need.
His range from I think it's like 18 feet and up is great. Like he's got a nice little mid range. He plays like a center. He's a great rim protector. He like I said, he plays like a small forward, and he can dribble and shit like that. Like I like that. I like that agileness and that speed at the 5 spot on our team.
Yeah, he hasn't been playing competitively, so he's pretty healthy. Hasn't been dinged up at all, really. He could use a little bit more fast-paced minutes, but he'll get that. Everybody has to go through that when they go to the league. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be right up to speed. I definitely think drafting a solid player who fits your needs is exactly what you should do with your first round pick.
I'm with you, Xavier, but not all Warriors fans agree.
Yeah, because we've had so much time to just talk about all the possibilities that we're just so.
I mean, you said it earlier on this podcast. Those possibilities are more fun to talk about sometimes.
They are way more fun because it's like, it's like, all right, LeBron's gonna win the finals, and then he does, and you're like, all right, we expected that, but. It's not about that. It's all about the fun that we had along the way. It's about the journey there, Talking about how Giannis was going to get swept. He almost did. He almost did. His brother got a ring before he did.
That's right. All right, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. It's good talking, Xavier. That's gonna be the last time we talk NBA for a while, which kind of sucks. But college basketball is gonna start up soon, so maybe I'll bring you back when you talk about.
Is it really gonna start up soon?
So SEC announced that they're starting mid-November. So I assume that other conferences might follow the lead, especially if football can be successful.
I mean, basketball has shown that it's successful, so why can't you just keep doing that?
In a bubble, but it's a little bit different. It's not in a bubble, but we'll see.
It was crazy. I've seen a lot of college football with a ton of fans.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the numbers. I haven't seen the numbers about that, but I wonder if people are getting sick because.
I'm wondering too. Those numbers haven't come out. It's kind of like okay, so
I haven't really looked them up.
The Titans game on Tuesday had like 10,000 fans at the stadium.
Can you just do that? Like.
I guess the state's allowing it. I don't know.
Seems
the Dolphins this weekend are going to have full capacity. After getting the governor's blessing because he's a fucking moron.
But like, all right, it's guaranteed someone's going to get corona, right? Guarantee it. I guarantee someone's going to get it. So why risk that? I mean, but because the president did it and he's fine, so it's all good. And he's an old ass man. It's fat.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Another edition of NBA Breakfast. It was good talk.
Yeah.
Tune in to my next episode later this week. $5 picks. A new segment coming with a couple friends. We pick.
Don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote. We pick 5 football games this weekend. 2 college games, 3 NFL games, and we make dollar picks on them. So tune into that. It's gonna be a fun episode. I'll talk to you later, Xavier.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. And
what's your Instagram handle?
It's at Gomezica.
He tweets funny thoughts that he has.
My Twitter is at Gomezica69.
And what's your Twitch?
I don't remember, to be honest. But you don't want to watch that. I suck.
All right. Peace.
Later.